Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm so glad that you're here today. Just pray that this video blesses you and encourages your heart. I'm still kind of going over what I really want to be talking about in this channel. I'm kind of all over the place right now. But I'm really just trying to go off of what the Lord lays on my heart to share. And so if these videos are encouraging you at all or bringing you any type of just hope in your Christian walk, I would just very much like if you hit like or subscribe to this channel, and hopefully you will continue to be encouraged. Today, what I wanted to talk about is waiting. As a Christian single, I feel like that's pretty much the main aspect of your walk with the Lord as far as a challenging aspect goes, because as a Christian single, we are challenged in the area of waiting. And I really wanted to kind of dive into what that has looked like for me in hopes to encourage you also in the waiting. I love listening to sermons about Christian singleness and really just encouragement for people who are in a season of waiting. And one of the things that I'm always brought back to in a season of waiting is just that the Lord is creating in us a endurance. All throughout the scriptures, it talks about endurance and running the race well, and the Lord really wants us to be a strong Christian. And in the waiting, it is really preparing you for just so many other things that you're going to experience as a Christian later on in life. So if we can kind of really get waiting down as a single, it's going to help us in other seasons as a married person and as a parent, and just so many other blessings if we can learn to wait well. And I know that we're not always going to be perfect in the waiting, but this video is really just an encouragement to you to wait in hope and wait in joy. I wanted to kind of share with you the story of the Israelites. If you are familiar with the Bible at all, a big story that most everybody knows is the story of how God pulled his people out of slavery from the Egyptians, and he brought them into the promised land. And through the season of just being in slavery to the season of being in the Lord's promised land, there was waiting. And I just kind of wanted to go through a couple chapters that I highlighted in Exodus. So these are a few things I just wanted to share with you. In Exodus chapter 13, that's where they are brought up to the Red Sea, and the Israelites were terrified. They're like, you brought us out of the slavery against the Red Sea just to die. And you would think after just going through the plagues and seeing God's handwork to release them from slavery that they would be just ready for what God had for them and ready to just either battle or believe that the Lord was going to do something great in their lives. But instead, the Bible says in verse 10 of chapter 13 that they were terrified. And I think as a single, that can be one of our first lessons on waiting, is when we're brought up with just an impossible thing in our life in this season of waiting. Maybe you're older, maybe you're hitting a phase where you feel like you aren't going to be able to have children if you don't get married soon, and you're up against that impossible just situation. And it's really easy to be terrified. It's really easy to be filled with discouragement and fear. But I just really want to encourage you with this verse in chapter 13. It says, it's chapter 13, verse 13. It says, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm. and you will see the deliverance of the Lord. Will And then it goes on to say, the Lord will bring you today. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. And I think that's such a great reminder as a Christian single, as we're brought up against the impossibilities, either that the culture is telling us or that our own mind is telling us, or friends or family might be telling us to compromise or just to give up. I just want you to remember the words of the Lord. He is going to fight for you, and He is going before you in your singleness, in the impossibility. Just as the Israelites were up against just an impossible situation, the Lord can work in those moments, and you need only be still. And later on in chapter 15, after they've crossed the Red Sea miraculously, the Lord destroyed their enemies right before their eyes. So now they've been through the plagues, they've been through the parting of the Red Sea. You would think these people would just be totally on fire for the Lord, ready for whatever comes. But just a couple chapters after that, in chapter 15, they are traveling for 3 days and there is no water. And they come up to some water, but the water is bitter, so they can't drink it. And so it's kind of funny, like when I was reading it from a Christian single perspective and just kind of placing it in my own life, I was thinking about like waiting and finding this guy who kind of fits everything that you wanted, but he's just not a Christian. And you're like, no, I've been waiting this whole time and he fits all these things that I've been looking for, but he just doesn't love the Lord. And in that season, I think you can really lament to God, like, here's this person, you know, he's almost there, just like the water, like they had waited all this time to drink, but the water that they came to wasn't drinkable. And I think in that moment, for them, they grumbled. They went before Moses and they grumbled. And for me personally, I know of times when I've met like this guy who kind of like fits everything from a standpoint of the world that looks really good, but it's just like falling short of God's standard. And I just like grumble, I lament, I complain to God, like why am I not able to find the water, the person that is really going to lead me closer to God. And in that, I think it's really important to remember God's timing is not your timing, and just because you found something that looks good on the outside does not mean that that's what God has for you in this moment. And you just really need to be willing to let go of that thing and trust that God has something better for you, even if you've been waiting a long time and you're really thirsty. It's like such a cool correlation that you can have as a single, to know that the Lord will provide. It's a test. Will you remain faithful to the Lord even though you're very thirsty, even though this thing looks good, but it's just not going to be satisfying in the end? And so later on, in chapter 16, now they're getting hungry. So they got the water turned to sweet so they could drink it in chapter 15. And then chapter 16, once again, the whole community grumbled because they were hungry. So the Lord just satisfied their thirst. And now they are complaining once again because they are hungry. And there's so many lessons to learn about the Israelites as a Christian single. And if you haven't read through Exodus, I would really encourage you to just sit down and read it, because there's a lesson to be learned about a heart of gratitude and a heart of thankfulness versus a heart of grumbling. And I would just really encourage you, as you go through it, to just highlight every time you hear or as you read the word terrified, as you read the word fear, as you read the word grumbling, and really look at that and see what fruit came from the Israelites as they grumbled, what fruit came to the Israelites as they feared, what fruit came to the Israelites as they really didn't trust the Lord, and think, like, how can I apply these lessons into my own life as a Christian single? What can I glean out of their walk and wandering in the desert? And how can I really shine in the moments of testing that the Lord has for me, rather than just be in a spirit of grumbling? So that's kind of like my challenge to you listening to this. Chapter 17. Once again, this is interesting. He runs them through another test. They are thirsty again, chapter 17, and then they're grumbling once again to Moses and being like, hey, we're thirsty, we need water. And the Lord brings Moses to the rock, and he hits it with his staff, and water comes out. And to me, it's just like interesting how the Lord will bring you to another lesson that you've already learned, and see, like, are you going to navigate this differently this time? And I feel like that was the whole story of the Israelites. Like, the Lord just let them wander in the desert, bringing them through the same test, to give them an opportunity to react differently. And I really just want to challenge you as a Christian single. How are you reacting to disappointments? How are you reacting to having to wait? How are you reacting to having to say no to relationships that aren't godly? Are you just lamenting? Are you getting in like a depression? Are you getting into mad at God? Are you just stopping serving the Lord because you're just upset? I think Satan, the way that he gets at Christian singles a lot of time is just to get us isolated within our own selves and feeling depression or sad that we're just not getting what we're wanting, so we might as well give up. And that really is just a lie from the enemy. And why I wanted to share this story about the Israelites is just to see Satan wants us to give up. He wants us to have a spirit of grumbling, a spirit of just fear, but the Lord calls us to remember him, to remember when he was faithful in the past, and to have hope and faith that he will provide, that we don't have to be afraid that he's not going to bring what we've been praying for, that we don't have to be afraid that he's not able to provide a godly spouse for us. And once again, my eyes are tearing up because, like, what are we going to believe? Are we going to stand on the promises of the Lord? Are we going to let fear and grumbling take over us as a Christian single? And it's not only going to hurt your walk with the Lord, but it's also going to hurt others around you who see the witness and the testimony. As a Christian single, it's not just you. There's other people who are watching you. Even if they don't say anything, they're watching to see, how is this person following the Lord? How is this person trusting in the Lord? And by your witness and by your testimony, many can come to the Lord. And I just want to encourage you, like, this walk isn't only about you. The Lord is calling you to be holy, to be set apart, to be full of hope and joy, to have that spirit through his word to help encourage others in the same season. And I just really I really hope that you can really gain a new encouragement to walk in joy, even in a season of the desert, when nothing seems to be going the way that you want it to go, when you aren't really seeing a whole lot of answers to prayer of what you've been asking the Lord for. He's still faithful. And the last chapter that I wanted to share in Exodus is chapter 32. And this is when Moses went up to the mountain to get the law of the Lord, the 10 Commandments. And while he was gone, the people said, because Moses was taking so long coming down from the mountain, we decided to build a golden calf. And once again, I think the correlation for us as a Christian single can be, well, because it's taking so long to get a godly spouse, I'm just going to make up my own idols. And it can be getting into a relationship that you know is not honoring to the Lord. It can be really rejecting serving the Lord because you're bitter, because you haven't received what you wanted. So you're just going to set up an idol of your job, or an idol of your own hobbies, or an idol of just spending a lot of money because you just want to feel the pain of your loneliness with something. And so I just want to really encourage you, just because you're not receiving what you want right now, don't build yourself an idol. Hold on to the Lord. Say, even though this is taking way longer than I ever wanted, way longer than what I ever expected, God, give me the faith to trust in you. And that's one thing I really want to push through this entire video, is you can't have this strength apart from the Lord. You can't have this joy apart from the Lord. You can't just make it up. It has to be a willing submitting of your heart to the Lord and asking Him to give you a heart of joy, asking Him to give you a heart of encouragement and faith and hope, because these are fruits of the Spirit. And you can't have these fruits unless you have submitted your life and you've repented and turned to the Lord for help. And in those, that's when you can call on the name of the Lord and ask Him. You know, you're not going to be perfect at this. You're not going to be just always happy when things don't go your way, but there's a spirit of joy that can only come through the Lord. There's so many passages, and one of the ones that comes to mind is just giving the Lord the sacrifice of praise. And I always wondered, when I was younger, why is it a sacrifice to praise? And I truly know now, being older, is just the sacrifice of praise is whenever, you're not feeling like praising the Lord. You're in a season of hurting. You're in a season of really strenuous, fighting the doubt, fighting the fear, and you're saying to God, even though I'm in this battle, even though it feels impossible, I'm going to lift up the sacrifice of praise to you, because I know you are Lord. I know that you've helped me in so many areas of my life in the past, and you're going to help me through this season. And I'm offering you up praise, even though I don't see the other side. I don't see how you're going to get me through the Red Sea, but I'm going to trust you, and I'm going to believe that you are going to bring me through this. And I just thank you for listening to this video, and I really pray that it encourages you in your waiting to just trust in the Lord and not let Satan discourage you, not let the enemy get you down, but to know that the Lord does have a plan and a purpose for your life, and the season of waiting is not going to be forever. Even it may feel like forever, the Lord is going to bring you to the other side. So, bye.